Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jamie and I make videos about knitting and fibre art. If that's something you're interested in, feel free to take a look around and subscribe if you like what you see. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok at Jamie_creates. All the links will be in the description. And if you'd like to support me on Patreon for some exclusive content, the link will also be in the description. Thank you so much to all my Cable Cuties patrons. I'll put their names on the screen. Your support means the absolute world to me and it's a really fun time over there, so feel free to check it out. I also just wanted to let you know, in case you're new here, that I do have a book coming out in April. It's called Fast and Fabulous Knits. I have spent the whole of 2023 working on it and I'm so excited for it to finally come out. It contains 18 brand new patterns that incorporate a bunch of different techniques, including cables, lace, color work, texture, and they're all fairly quick knits, so you won't be spending months on end working on one piece. So if that sounds up your alley, you can pre-order the book now and the link will also be in the description. I also wanted to quickly talk about what I'm wearing. I don't actually think I've worn this in a video before. This is my happy hour top. It's probably one of my best selling patterns. I really don't know why I've never worn it in a video, but anyway, here it is. It's like a really classic and beautiful texture that I just love, and it's a really fun knit. I actually have a bunch of different versions of this pattern, but this is the OG. If you wanted to grab the pattern, you'll find it on my website, which the link will also be in the description, obviously. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's begin this knitting podcast. My last podcast was about 2 months ago, so I have a fair bit to update you guys on. I don't actually really have many finished objects to update you on, which is a bit sad, but I have lots of whips, so I've still been busy, but mostly just starting new things instead of finishing my whips. But hopefully that's a little bit relatable to a lot of you. I definitely want to try and finish some of these whips soon so that I can start new things and just feel a bit more accomplished. I'm going to start with talking about my finished objects. Since my last podcast, there are only 2 and I actually only have one of them with me, sadly, but I will show you photos of the other one. So the first one is probably not much of a surprise if you've been watching my videos, because I feel like I've worn it in one video and I've shown it in my Everything I Knit in 2023 video. So it's not really a big reveal, but I just wanted to show it in the podcast just in case you only watch the podcast or you're new here and you haven't seen it. So anyway, I thought I'd just show you anyway. This is my Lost Tank. The pattern is by Friday Knits and it's honestly one of my favorite knits that I've made in so long. I've been wearing this so much. It's summer here in Australia and I was also recently in Cape Town, which I'll talk a bit about later on in the podcast, and I have been just wearing it so much. It's just the best. I feel like I have to make another one. I just need to find the right yarn for it. I mean, this was on my list of things to make for so long, and then I finally found the right yarn that I was like, this is the yarn I'm gonna use. I used the sock yarn from Woolen Works in the colorway Just Beach, which is from the most recent Barbie collection. It's such a summery color because, like, obviously it's inspired by the beach, and I just feel like I just want to put this on all the time. It also looks so good. The more tanned I get, the better it looks and it just fits me so well. I really love the pattern. I honestly have nothing bad to say about it. I did crop it a fair bit, so if you look at the real pattern you'll notice that it's probably quite a bit longer, but I just made it to the length that I prefer, but it's very easily adjustable because it's worked from the top down, and there's not really much more to say about it. I really love the 2x1 ribbed texture, and also just like the details along the sleeve and neck trims. I just think look really nice and clean and polished, and yeah, I just really love this piece, and I plan to continue wearing it throughout the rest of the summer as much as I can before it gets too cold. So that's the first finished object. The second one, as I said, I can't show you. It's a project that I actually started and finished while I was in Cape Town. For context, I was in Cape Town for 3 weeks during December, so I think I left on like the 5th of December and I got back on the 29th, so spent almost the whole month there. My family is from Cape Town, so I was there visiting my family, and my boyfriend was with me for 2 of the 3 weeks that I was there, which was really nice. He's also never been to Cape Town, so it was really cool to kind of show him all my favorite places and all the sites and kind of play tourist for a little bit, because I mean, I've been to Cape Town so many times. I've been lucky enough to go and visit my family many times throughout my life, so it was just nice to kind of be able to share that with him. But the context of the finished object is that one of my cousins, she's actually the same cousin who modeled this happy hour top that I'm wearing, and if you get the pattern, or if you look on my Instagram even, you'll see that she's modeling it. So that's just a coincidence that I'm wearing it today. But that cousin commissioned me to knit her a jumper. She was inspired by a piece that I had made, I don't know, 2 years ago maybe, something like that, that she'd also worn, because we did this whole photo shoot the last time I was there, and she'd modeled that one as well. And it was just a like half fisherman's rib jumper that I had kind of improvised, and she really liked it, but she didn't want to, so I was like, you can buy that one off me, honestly. I don't wear it a ton, so I'd be more than happy to sell it to you. And she was like, I would, but I don't really want that color. And I was like, okay, fair enough. She was like, I'm thinking maybe something more blue vibes. And I just happened to have 4 skeins of Malabrigo Rios in the colorway Aquamarine available to use, and I didn't have plans for what I was going to do with it yet, so I was like, I should be able to get a jumper out of that if you want that color. And she was like, yes, I love that color, let's do that. So I basically said, yeah, like I'll be able to finish that by the time I leave Cape Town, because that was basically like my deadline, because otherwise I'd have to like ship it to her, which would just be really silly. I only ended up starting it once I actually got there. I probably could have started it a bit earlier, but I just didn't. So I started it at the beginning of my trip, and I finished it with like 1 day to spare. I'll put a photo of the finished piece up on the screen here. You can see her wearing it and how nice it looks. I used 8mm needles with worsted weight yarn in half fisherman's rib, so it's definitely like very stretchy and airy and squishy. I think it'll be a good layering piece. She actually lives in London, but she was visiting Cape Town as well, because all of her family still live there, but she lives in London. So I was like, I want it to be something that is going to be warm for your winter, but I also need to get it done in a short amount of time, and I only had 4 skeins, and I didn't think that I would be able to hold it double and get a jumper out of it, which I definitely wouldn't have been. Like, looking back, I'm like, there's no way. So yeah, I basically had to work within the limitations that I was given, but she was so happy with it, and I think, yeah, it's a great layering piece, something like really easy to just throw over something else, and then you can even like throw a coat over it if you need. So I pumped it out. It was pretty much all I worked on while I was away. I did work on one of the other whips I'm going to show you a little bit, but for the most part I was just working on that jumper. Once again, just freehanding it, just based off of the jumper that I made. I did make a few changes, especially around the neckline. I did like a rolled neckline last time, and this time I just did like normal ribbing. So yeah, but it worked out really nicely. I actually even blocked it while I was there, because I felt like I don't even want to make her block it herself and like have to explain how to do that. So I had like a few days left when I'd finished it, and then I blocked it, and then it took a few days to dry, even though it was really hot there. I don't know why. It just like took, I don't know, maybe like 2 days to dry. And yeah, it dried like with like 1 more day from, like I was leaving like the day it dried, so I was able to get those photos just before I left. So that was my other FO, and yeah, it was very nice that she wanted to support me and my work and everything. So yeah, I don't often do commissions, but for family members, I mean, like, it's kind of hard to say no. She actually commissioned a happy hour top from me because she loved wearing this so much in 2022 when I was in London, and she's living in London, so I saw her then, and she commissioned me a happy hour top, and I finished it in like a few days, like maybe a week or something, and then gave it to her. These are a lot quicker to knit up, so it was a bit easier than a whole jumper, but it's really nice that she wanted to support me, and I felt like, you know what, like I'm gonna be knitting anyway, so I may as well just knit that. So that's all I have for finished objects, but I do have a bunch of whips, so I'm going to get onto that, and then I'm going to talk a bit about the yarn that I bought in Cape Town because there is quite a bit. So there's 4 whips I'm going to show you, because the other whips that I haven't made any progress on really, or any like significant progress on since my last podcast. It's a bit shameful, but I don't know, I had a bit of cast on fever, and then I don't know, those projects just haven't been speaking to me at the moment and like calling my name, but I'm sure at some point I'm going to want to finish them because I'll probably get sick of these. So maybe I'll have updates for those in my next podcast, but for now I'm just going to show you everything I've actually been actively working on since my last podcast. So the first is also one that I haven't really been working on for a while, but I did kind of go through this like kind of just chaotic phase where I just casted this on and then did a whole lot of it, and then just was like, I don't want to knit the sleeves, basically. So this is a pattern also by Friday Knits, and it's the Shrug It Off pattern. I think it's Shrug It Off. I think I keep saying Shrug It Up, but it's Shrug It Off, which makes a lot more sense. So I haven't done the sleeves yet, but I've only done the like body of the Shrug. So obviously that's kind of how it is. I think, I don't know, something about my gauge is a bit weird. It's a free pattern on her website, but I don't know, I can't really remember because I haven't really been working on this for a while, but yeah, something about my gauge is a bit weird, so I ended up having to do, I think it was less rows than she said, or more, I don't know, but I don't know, it felt like it was still quite long, like after the sleeves. I don't know, I was just starting to get a bit like, oh, I don't know if this is like not right for me, but like let me try it on and I can actually show you, because I feel like then I can kind of get a better sense for what was going through my head. So like you can see it, like, oh, it's actually like not so bad, but yeah, that's kind of where it's gonna sit, and then I just need to do the sleeves and I just haven't been bothered to do that. So maybe I'll pick this one back up because it's actually such a nice yarn to use, and doing this 2x2 ribbing, pretty fun, pretty nice and stretchy, and works up fairly quickly. So I think I will start working on this again, but for now it's been kind of put to the side because of some of the other projects that I've been working on. I'm just going to take this off because I think I look a bit silly. Anyway, the yarn that I'm using is one that I've had in my stash for a while. It's once again from Woolen Works, and this is her DK base. It's actually her old DK base. She's brought a new one in, which is so nice. But this is the old DK Merino, and it's in the colorway Birthday Balloons, which I think was one of her Advent colorways from her 2022 Advent. And then she brought it out as like a normal colorway last year. So I've had this in my stash for so long. It's so nice and pretty and like pastel. So you can see the colorway, it's really pretty. And I still have a whole other skein of it, so because this is all I've got left of the first skein, but I've got a whole other skein, so I'll definitely be able to knit the sleeves for this. I just thought it would be a fun way to use this yarn because I'd bought this yarn and I didn't know what to do with it. So I only had 2 skeins, so you know, I'm a bit limited, but this is the perfect pattern for that, and it's also free, and she had a YouTube tutorial to go along with it, so it just was really the perfect situation. Okay, I would say this next one is probably one that I've been working on the most consistently since I started it. Obviously I was probably working on it a little bit less during my trip because I was mostly just working on that commission, but every now and then I was like, I don't know, I just want to work on this instead of that. And that is my Monday sweater. This has been a huge project. The pattern is by Petite Knit, and this is my current progress. I'm working on the second sleeve at the moment. I'm pretty close to finishing it, but I've done the whole first sleeve, and I have put the stitches for the body on hold because I am really nervous that I'm going to run out of yarn. So I put the stitches on hold for the body so that I can at least finish the sleeve, which I'll definitely be able to do. This is how much yarn I have left. It's basically like just under 1 skein of each. The yarn I'm using is the Chaos Yarn Organic Soft Merino and Organic Brushed Alpaca in the shade Charming. I talked about this yarn in my last video, which was my top 5 favorite commercial yarn brands. So if you want to hear me talk about the yarn, I would highly recommend checking out that video. But it's a really beautiful yarn, and it's been working up so nicely for this pattern. I decided I wanted to make this pattern when I bought the yarn, so I stuck to it, and I bought the yarn on my trip to Scandinavia a couple of months ago. It's just so soft and beautiful. I just love the way the brushed alpaca kind of just gives it that extra fluffiness, and they blend so perfectly together. It's completely seamless. You wouldn't even know I'm holding 2 strands. It's just such a good color match, and I really love the neckline and how it's worked, and the German short row shaping for the raglan, which I'm really not super familiar with. I actually don't even know. I think this might be my first time doing a raglan with German short row shaping, which may sound crazy because I know a lot of raglan patterns do, but yeah, I don't know. For some reason, this is my first time working a pattern that is raglan with German short rows. So it worked, and it gives it a really nice kind of shape for the neckline. I would love to try and figure out how I can incorporate German short rows in my future patterns if I ever do any more raglan patterns, which I'm sure I will. But yeah, I would love to work out how to do, you know, all the maths around German short row shaping. I've never even used German short rows in any of my patterns, but I do appreciate them, and I don't mind doing them as long as I have really clear instructions that I can follow and not mess up. Then I do enjoy. But yeah, so this is kind of how it looks with the shaping. So you have the front and the back, and we've got all our raglan increases, I mean, it's a very basic pattern, like there's nothing crazy about it. Something I do really love is the Italian bind off on this one. I never knew that Italian bind off and tubular bind off were the same thing. Anyway, but what she does with the Italian bind off is she does 2 setup rows where you basically just work double knitting. So in one row you're doing knit 1, slip 1, and then the other one you're doing slip 1, purl 1, basically. So that just, I don't know what that really does, but it's created a really nice finish on the tubular bind off, and I think I'm going to do that every time from now on because it's so nice and just looks really clean and like nice and rounded, and I don't know why it looks so much better when you do those setup rows, but it just does. So if anyone wants to explain that to me, go ahead. I really can't be bothered looking it up. The ribbing is quite long, so I think if like, even though I don't really want to undo this bind off, if I do need to, I will make this a bit shorter and then I can just block out the sleeves. Worst comes to worst, if I'm really not left with enough yarn. I also have my swatch I can unravel, but yeah, if I'm really not left with enough yarn to get the body to like an adequate length, because I was already prepared to crop this, like that's why I bought less yarn than the pattern called for. This was actually the first yarn purchase that I made on my trip. So at the time I was also like really conscious of how much yarn I was gonna end up buying, and I didn't want to like overdo it on the first go, but I just should have got at least 1 extra skein of both yarns, but it's just what happens. If I'm really not left with enough yarn and I'm really not happy with the length and I don't want to keep trying to have to like rely on blocking, I will just order another skein of each, and I'll probably order more yarn from them because I really like their yarn. So worst comes to worst, I'll do that. They do ship to Australia, so I don't know what the shipping cost will be, but it shouldn't be the end of the world. But yeah, I really wanted to avoid doing that. So I thought I'd just put the stitches for the body on hold because I didn't want to run out on a sleeve. The body length is something I'm a bit more flexible with, whereas the sleeves like need to be a certain length. So yeah, we'll see kind of how far this yarn takes me. I had only 4 skeins of each total, so this was like, you know, just over 3 skeins got me all of this. So you never know. But yeah, I'm really loving working on this. It's like a super mindless knit at this point. Like the pattern is pretty repetitive and I just love this color, and I think it's going to be such a good just like wardrobe staple because I just didn't have any like just simple basic raglan staple like plain stockinette, like just, you know, boring. Like I don't really have that. I feel like whenever I'm making stuff, it's always like gotta have some kind of like fun twist to it, and sometimes you just want something simple. So that's what this is.
And that's what this is.
I can't really say that every single thing I'm going to be making is like a simple plain stockinette base. I feel like the word basic has negative connotations, but basic piece. But I did want to have, you know, at least one. So that's what this is.
And that's what this is.
And yeah, I'm very happy with it, and I'm very looking forward to finishing it and blocking it because I feel like this has been in and out of my project bags so much, and as it's gotten bigger, it's become a bit harder to fit in my project bag. I'm feeling like I'm probably going to just need to get a bigger project bag because I think the biggest one I have is not actually that big, and so it's been crumpled up a lot, and that's not great for the way the fabric looks, but I feel like once it blocks out it's going to look super nice. So yeah, really looking forward to continuing working on this, but problem is I just keep getting cast on fever and I just keep wanting to cast more things on, and it makes it really hard to finish this because I'm also using such small needles. I think I'm on 3.75mm needles for a whole jumper is literally tiny. So yeah, wish me luck. Hopefully by the next podcast I will have this one done, or at least close to being done. Okay, this next one I almost don't want to show you, but I'm going to show you because I've been doing TikToks and Instagram reels anyway, showing my progress for it, so it's not really a spoiler, but I have been vlogging my whole process of working on this, so I'm not going to go into too much detail now because that video will go into plenty of detail, so for now I'll just try and keep it brief, but I did want to show you because it is a whip and I have been working on it it's pretty much all I've been working on actually since, I don't know, the year started. I started it pretty much the start of the new year. I think maybe on January 2nd or something. So yeah, it's pretty much all I've been working on since then. So I wanted to show you. It's a very exciting piece. If you didn't know, I'm a huge Swiftie, and next month the Eras tour is coming to Australia finally, and I'm so excited. Like every time I talk about it, I get so excited about it. I can't believe it's next month. It's just crazy. I think it's like almost a month until my first show because I'm actually going twice in Melbourne and in Sydney, which I am so lucky for, and I just can't believe this is even happening. I haven't seen her in 10 years, so I've been waiting for this for a very long time. I wasn't able to go to the last 2 tours that she brought here, and then I had tickets to see her in London in 2020, but we all know how that turned out. So yeah, this has really, really been a long time coming. Pun intended, I guess. That's a pun. Reference intended, I guess, because the vest that I am knitting for myself to wear at one of the shows, I actually don't even know which I'm going to wear it at yet, that'll probably just depend on the weather, is this. It says, "It's been a long time coming." It's not finished yet, so I'll explain what I'm going to do with the rest of the front. But the back has the Lover House knitted onto it. So if you are familiar with the Lover House, you'll know what this is. But if you're not familiar, it's a house that featured in the Lover music video. And then kind of like, I don't know if it was like coincidentally or if like retrospectively or if it was like an Easter egg. It's really kind of up in the air about whether or not this was fully planned. But each room in the house kind of represents an era. It's just weird because there have been 3 albums since Lover, so that's why it's like, was this just a coincidence? I don't know. We've got Debut, Midnights, Speak Now, Red, Folklore, Fearless, 1989, Evermore, Lover, and Reputation, which is all 10 albums knitted onto one house. This was actually originally going to be the front, but I've actually decided to put it at the back, and I'm very happy with the decision. I used so much scrap yarn for this, like if you can really see close up how much scrap yarn I used. I wish I could have used more, but I would have needed like a giant jumper to do that, and I'm not gonna knit that for a summer concert, so I used as much as I could. The idea that I have for the front is that I'm gonna crochet, which hopefully that will work out. I'm gonna crochet like a little icon for every era, and I'm going to actually like sew them on all the way, like, you know, above and below the text, so that I have, you know, something to represent all the areas on the front as well. So we'll see how that goes. I hope it'll go well. I think it'll be fun. I haven't started that process yet, but I will be starting it soon. I've got plenty of time before the concert, which is great. I'm glad I started this early. I thought I would probably take a little bit longer to do this, but I've just been like obsessed with it and have been like a little bit less busy as we kind of like ease into the new year, and like I've just been taking advantage of having a bit more time on my hands to work on this while I can before I like get stressed at the last minute and then have to like rush it. So go me for time management. But yeah, also I didn't really explain it, but "It's been a long time coming," if you don't know, is also a line from the song Miss Americana, which opens the tour, like it opens the show. And she kind of also has it in the intro where it's like, "It's been a long time coming." So I thought it was very fitting. Anyway, I'm very, very happy with how this is coming along. My next step is going to be weaving in all of these ends. So wish me luck and send me strength, please. I've been putting it off. I have weaved in all the ends on this side. There weren't that many, so it was mostly just in the base color. But yeah, in the this side is just, we've entered procrastination station with that. The base color that I've used, by the way, is the Isaja Eco Soft yarn, which is like an alpaca cotton blend. And I bought this yarn while I was on my Scandinavia trip as well. I had 4 skeins of this, and I didn't know what I was going to use for it. Originally, I thought I was going to maybe design something with it, but then when I was trying to figure out what I should use as my base color for this vest, I just realized, I was like, I've got 4 skeins of this, that's definitely going to be enough. And even if I hold it double, which I ended up doing, so that I could use more scraps, because if I was holding it single, I probably wouldn't have been able to hit gauge with all my scrap yarn. I may regret doing that if it's really, really hot on both of the nights that I'm going and I have to wear it on one of them, but just hoping that the weather will pull through and be a little bit more forgiving, because we've had a pretty chaotic summer, so you really never know. But anyway, I just decided to use it for this because it was like a perfect, just like neutral color to like really let the Lover House stand out. And I'm really glad that I used it for this because I didn't really have like a specific design idea for it anyway. So at least now I know it's been put to good use and it's not just going to sit in my stash. And it wasn't really like me to use a neutral for my designs anyway, so yeah, didn't have to do that in the end. That's all I'm really going to say about this. If you want to see my full process from start to finish of me working on this, you can stay tuned for the video that I'll have. It will be out next month, I assume, either after the concert or before the concert, but sometime around then. So yeah, it'll be sometime in February. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I've been really enjoying vlogging the process, so I'm excited to, you know, edit that video, which is probably going to be a bit of a task, but yeah, I think it'll be fun to kind of just like see how I progress all the way through, which is not something I've really done before, but I definitely want to do more this year because I actually really enjoyed it. And it's like, you just kind of got to start it. And then once you've started, it's like much easier to just keep filming as you go. So yeah, I'll definitely be doing that. Probably not with every project I make because that would be crazy, but with, you know, with some projects that feel more significant, I definitely will try and do some more vlogs like that. So hopefully it works out to be a good video, and hopefully I'll do more of them and you'll enjoy that. So yeah. Okay, I only have one more whip to show you, and I actually started this last night, so there's not much to show you, but a little bit, and I couldn't not include it because it is an active whip. I started it last night and I've already been working on it a little bit this morning, and that is my first pair of socks for 2024. I've decided that this year I would like to knit many pairs of socks. I only knit 2 pairs last year, and I wore them so much before it was summer, and that's not good because I don't want them to wear out. I need more socks. I need more knitted socks because I actually love them. I love wearing them. I did not think I would. I was a bit skeptical on if I would even ever think to wear knitted socks. But I think as long as I'm using the right colorways, like that kind of work with my outfits and that like aren't too intense or like too crazy, then I find myself pulling for my knitted socks all the time. So with that being said, I have casted on the DRK Everyday Socks. So that's a pattern by Andrea Mowry. And it is a 2x2 ribbed sock, and I'm once again using the Wool & Works sock yarn in the colorway Neon Lights, which I've had in my stash not for that long. I think I bought it at the She's Crafty Market, but I've been wanting this yarn for so long. I used the Neon Lights colorway for my Ghost Whisperer top that I made like a year ago, but that was in the lace Suri silk, and it looked very different. She's also just like kind of perfected the recipe like even more since then and gotten even better, and there's a whole, you know, number of reasons why, but yeah, it looks very different. So I don't even feel like I'm knitting with the same colorway, but I've been wanting it for so long on one of her merino bases because it just looks so crisp and so nice and fun, but not too intense because obviously there's still like the base color as well, just like the, you know, cream color. So I finished off the toe. I'm using 2mm needles because the pattern calls for 2.25mm needles, which I don't have. I have 2 and 2.5, and I did my swatch in 2.5, and I got like fairly close to hitting gauge, but I just prefer to be on the tighter side, especially with socks, because they will stretch, and I don't like it when they're like too loose. Like I really need them to be like snug. So especially considering this is like a ribbed piece which stretches quite a bit and has quite a bit of like give, I thought it'd be better to go for the 2mm, especially because my gauge also can like loosen up as I go in projects. So yeah, I decided to go for the 2mm needles. You can see how like tight my gauge is, especially on the toe. It loosens up obviously with the 2x2 rib, which I've started, but yeah, on the toe it's like crazy tight, but that's good. And yeah, it's just a basic 2x2 rib sock. It's using some heel technique. I can't remember the name, but I haven't done that before. And I also haven't worked socks from the toe up before. So I'm excited about this project because I think it will be something new for me. The last 2 pairs of socks I made were both using the ruffle socks pattern by Petite knit, but one of them I just adapted to not have ruffles. Those were knit from the cuff down, which I also enjoyed, but yeah, excited to kind of learn the techniques around knitting from the toe up. I learned a new cast on method, which is called a Turkish cast on, I think. That was really cool. That's how you kind of cast on the toe at the same, like the toe bit without having to like seal it. That was very cool. So anyway, not much to say about this, but just look how pretty those little neon speckles are. Like they are just so cool. I just love it. So these will hopefully knit up kind of quickly because I'm really enjoying it, and it's just like a fun on the go project. I'll probably just bring these with me if I'm ever taking my knitting out. Also another reason I want to be knitting more socks this year, because they're good projects to have on the go. So I want to try, I'm not going to make an aim for how many socks I'm going to make because I don't really know how many is kind of like achievable, but I just want to try and have socks on my needles like as much as possible. Like basically when I finish a pair, I'll cast a new one on. Like I just have so much sock yarn that I can use, like single skeins that I can use. So yeah, I may as well. Like I have at least 2 more skeins of sock yarn that I definitely want to use for a pair of socks, and then a few others where I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to use them for. But yeah, prepare to see many more socks on my channel throughout the rest of the year, so that's exciting. I also just pre-ordered The Sock Project, which is a book from Summer Lee Knits, and I'm hoping that will also kind of give me plenty of patterns to work up throughout the year. So I definitely think I'm going to be making a lot of socks this year. I think I've officially been converted into a sock knitter. Okay, to finish off the podcast, I wanted to show you some of the yarn that I bought in Cape Town because I did buy some. And I also wanted to show you this new tool that I have that I just really love. And I thought I would show you on my YouTube channel. I've shown it a little bit on my Instagram here and there just because I've been using it, and it was like in a reel that I did, and I've been showing it on my story a bit. But I wanted to show you on here because I really love it. I will say it was gifted to me, but I had no obligation to post anything. I just genuinely love the product, so I want to recommend it to you. So this is the mini minder from Lemonwood. This is an Etsy shop, as I said, and they make these handmade, beautiful, like with this beautiful design. They're all different. They have so many different designs. It's all just like so nicely crafted and such high quality materials. And basically what this is, I mean, I can get some yarn just to demonstrate. Just give me a second. Okay, so essentially how it works is you just stick your skein or your cake, whatever it is, onto the minder. You just stick this little bit through the middle and attach the little wrist strap, and then you can just, you know, work your knitting. So let me just I mean, you can even, especially for a project like this, I haven't actually used it with such a small project before, but I've been using it mostly for like knitting on the go, but like not really standing up and knitting, but for just like knitting in the car and like knitting just like if I'm sitting at a park or something and you don't want to put your yarn on the ground, or you don't want to have to keep it in a project bag. It can just be right next to you. I'll just like stand up and kind of show you so you can kind of see. Basically it just sits right next to you, just hangs, and you can just work on your project. So I can literally walk and knit this project, like so convenient. You get the point. I just love this product so much. I think it's just the best. I've been obsessed with it. I can't stop using it. Like, I just couldn't recommend it more. I would highly recommend that if you want to get one of these mini minders or any of the other beautiful products that they have, you check out their Etsy shop. Okay, now onto the yarn that I bought while I was in Cape Town. I went to 2 different stores, one of them being Cowgirl Blues, which I was just so excited to actually get to go to because I've been to Cape Town, as I said before. I went actually in 2022. For some reason I never made it to Cowgirl Blues that trip. I knew it existed, so I don't know why I never went, but anyway, I didn't go, but I knew that I wanted to make sure I went this time, so I went pretty early on in my trip. My granny took me, which was really lovely. She's also a knitter, so it was cool to show her this shop that she'd also never been to and show her all the pretty yarn. She didn't end up buying anything for herself, but I tried to convince her to, but she didn't. She's got enough, you know. She makes like little jumpers for her grandkids, and I don't really think hand-dyed yarn is kind of her jam, but it very much is my jam. So I was very excited. I love Cowgirl Blues. I've actually used their yarn before because my mum went to Cape Town about a year ago. I think it was February 2023. And while she was there, I said, "Mum, please, can you go to the store for me and can you buy me some yarn?" So she went and she got me some of their Aran singles yarn, which I ended up actually using for one of my book patterns. So it all worked out so nicely. I used it for the Zesty Vest, and I really enjoy using that yarn. It's actually a mohair and wool blend, which is so weird because like we just don't see that anywhere else, honestly. But it's so nice and has such a nice texture and a nice feel, and it's really nice to knit with. It just glides off the needle so nicely and smoothly. So I knew I wanted to try and knit with that again, but I was also just kind of open to getting anything. I didn't really go with any kind of specific ideas in mind. But yeah, it was so cool to go, and the exchange rate, I just have to say, is amazing. Like, everything in Cape Town was so cheap for us, like for us Australians. If you're from the US or the UK or just in Europe, like if you are used to, you know, the US dollar, the euro, the pound, it would be even better for you. But for even as an Australian, it was incredibly cheap. So having been to some very expensive places recently was greatly welcomed. I was very happy to get some more affordable but still really nice yarn. I actually managed to score an even better deal because they had a bunch of yarn that was actually on sale because it was like their version of like oopsies. So it was just like colorways that didn't quite work out exactly how they wanted, and they actually had 5 skeins of one like oopsie colorway, which was still beautiful but just looked not exactly how they, you know, wanted it to look. So I think it's just like a little bit darker than the colorway is meant to look like. But anyway, I ended up grabbing all 5 skeins that they had because that's like a sweater quantity basically, and I I couldn't resist because they were like $12 a skein, which is just like so cheap. So cheap. Like for hand-dyed yarn, it's like crazy. So I just like had to do it. And that's this beautiful Aran Singles yarn in the colorway Chatterbox, but like the sample colorway. So it's not exactly what the Chatterbox colorway looks like. It's usually a bit brighter than this, as I said, but it's still stunning, like so up my alley, just like gorgeous. And yeah, I ended up getting 5 skeins. I don't need to show you all 5, they all look the same. I might use this with my leftover Aran yarn from them in the colorway Hot Pink, because I think that will look really cool as like a contrast color or something. So I think with that I should definitely be able to get a jumper out of it. So I think I'm going to use this for a design of some sort this year. I'm gonna obviously wait for the inspiration to strike, but yeah, that's definitely the plan. I don't have any other patterns in mind, so I really want to design with this yarn because I really love working with it, and especially I love, you know, supporting a local South African dyer. So yeah, that's my first purchase from them. My second one was just this one skein of their Cropper sock yarn, so it's like their sock base, and this is in the colorway Carly Simon. And this was just such an interesting colorway. I mean, it's like this with all of their colorways. They are all just so, like, they just use such interesting color combinations. And I just think it's just really unique and like just not always predictable. But this one really kind of reminded me of like a sunset, and it's just really nice. I think I'm gonna obviously make a pair of socks in these because this is my year of socks. So that's the plan. It actually took me a while to pick which color I wanted, but this is what I ended up getting. So love this. And then I also ended up getting a bunch of mini skeins from them as well, which I have kind of already used. So you'll see me talk about those more in my Eras Tour outfit vlog. But basically I got a bunch of mini skeins in certain colors that I knew I was lacking in my stash so that I would be able to knit the Lover House. Oh, at the time I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I just knew it was going to be something with all the eras using my scraps, and I knew I was missing a fair few of the eras, just like, you know, Reputation, Folklore, Evermore and Red, pretty much. Those are like the main ones, and Midnights even. I just don't have as much of those like darker colors, and I just don't really knit with a lot of red, but I definitely want to knit with more red this year because I actually have nothing against red. So that's something that I definitely need to do. I need to find some really nice red yarn to make like a red jumper or something. Yeah, so I bought a bunch of those mini skeins. They worked out to be like $2 each or something, like something crazy cheap. So I just bought a few of those, and I've already used those, so I can't really show you them. But yeah, that's everything that I got from Cowgirl Blues. And then my granny really wanted to take me to her usual yarn store that she goes to. It's a really cute little shop that's actually like in someone's house, but they've like turned a whole like section of their house into a shop, which I think is like genius. So I went there, and I honestly wasn't really sure what to expect because my granny, like I said, like she just, you know, she uses pretty, you know, like standard, like, you know, a lot of acrylic and just like really like basic yarn that's like probably nothing that like crazy that I would really like be interested, that's gonna really add much to my stash. Not to sound like a yarn snob, but like maybe I'm a bit of a yarn snob these days. But I was like, I definitely want to go and I'll see what they have, and if I like anything, of course I'll buy something because I want to support the South African yarn industry. And lo and behold, they actually did have a bit of hand-dyed yarn, which I really didn't expect. I really didn't expect that at all. But they had some yarn from another Cape Townian dyer who I'd actually never heard of, but I looked at her Instagram and she's great. Like, she's got such beautiful colorways, and she's definitely involved in the community and whatnot, in the online community. So I just had never heard of her before, but you may have heard of her, and if you haven't, I would highly recommend checking out her Instagram. But it's the dyer Miss La Mote, or Mote. I don't actually really know how to pronounce it, to be honest. But sorry, I don't know how I can't really seem to get this to focus properly, but it's called Miss La Mote, and I got 2 skeins of this beautiful like fingering weight single yarn. It's 100% superwash merino, and it's South African merino as well, which I think is really cool. The colorway is called There Were Tropical Breezes, which I think is a really cool colorway name. And yeah, I got 2 skeins of this. This is also really affordable, so it's just like so nice to be able to get hand-dyed yarn at such low prices because it's very rare, even from like local yarn stores as well. So I was like, I'm sold. Like, you don't even have to convince me. This was like the colorway that I liked the best that they had, but honestly she has so many nice colorways on her website. I don't know what I'm gonna make yet. I've gotta really kind of be picky with my patterns because You know, I've only got 2 skeins, so I'm thinking something summery, but I really don't know. It's just such a summery color. We'll see. I really don't know, but 2 skeins I should be able to get a decent amount. So I'm not sure, but that's my only other purchase. Okay, so that is everything. Everything that I bought, everything I've been working on, and everything I finished. So I'm looking forward to catching up in the next podcast and showing you my progress on those whips, and hopefully they'll be finished, and maybe there'll be some more whips to show you next time. Thanks so much for watching. I don't know when my next podcast will be, but I'm gonna try and do videos as often as I can, ideally every week, but it may end up being like every other week, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna definitely try and be a lot more consistent on YouTube this year, so I hope you'll stick around and come along on the journey with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!